Hello, my name's Aviva, and today I wanted to share with you my thoughts on the TV adaptation for The Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. So if you've been with my channel for a very long time, then you might be aware that this is actually the series that got me back into reading as an adult. I used to read all the time as a kid, and I kind of fell out of it like middle school, high school age. And then a couple of years ago, I was at my family for the weekend, and my entire family is like really into reading. So they were all reading their own books, doing their own thing. I was really bored. I had nothing to do. So my little sister ended up giving me this series, and she's like, just give it a shot. I really think you're gonna like it. So I ended up picking it up, and I binged all 3 books over the span of the 3 days that I was there. And that is kind of the start of how I got back into reading. So not only do I have to thank my little sister for getting me back into reading, but I also have to thank this series. So it was pretty exciting that they were making a television show about it, and I thought it was fitting to share with you my thoughts on how I think it went. And I really got to say now that this isn't going to be one of those gushy, oh my god, I absolutely loved it videos. Like, I am not generally a big fan of TV adaptations, and this instance was no different. Like, there was some stuff that I really liked about the show, but there were also a lot of stuff that I didn't like about the show. And honestly, I've been on my phone for like a couple of days now, and I have not seen a single bad review about this. So I will break the ice and be the first person to say that I did not love everything about what they decided to change about the books to the TV show. And with that said, if you loved this show and you don't want to hear anything negative about it, if you don't want to hear any spoilers, if you haven't watched it or read the books yet or anything like that, maybe don't watch this video. I'm not here to insult anybody. I really just like being super honest with you guys. I don't like putting filters on my thoughts. I like just sharing with you exactly what I felt and thought, and that is what I'm going to do today. So if you're cool with hearing some negative things about, this very popular show that's going around right now, then let's keep going. So with that said, I first wanted to just say that, I know that these books are not perfect. Thankfully, I read them at the perfect time in my life when I was not picky and I didn't know when things were bothering me or not. I kind of just went with the flow. But if I read them now, I 100% know that these books would not work for me. I'm no longer into love triangles. I'm no longer into dual timelines. And there are a lot of stuff about these books that I know I would complain about now. But thankfully, I read them when I didn't know any better. So they really worked for me at the time, and I really have fond memories about them. I never plan to reread them though, because first of all, once I watch a show, I can never go back and reread it, because then I always see the show in my head when I'm, rereading the books, and it never works that way. So it all worked out well that I read them back then and I'm watching the show now. So with that said, I've always been a massive Conrad fan. I was never the hugest fan of Jeremiah. I always knew that Conrad was endgame, and I actually really like how everybody was portrayed in the show, specifically Conrad. I feel like kind of what they did was they took the characteristics from all 3 books, the way that all of the characters developed throughout all 3 books, and they kind of mushed it into the first season of the show. Specifically with Conrad, I noticed this the most, the way that Conrad would go up and down of being nice to Belly and then mean to Belly and going in and out of whatever he was thinking. He was dealing with a lot of stuff throughout this book, throughout the entire series, and I feel like they portrayed him very well about how the whole books portrayed him, throughout 1 through 3. They did it really well in just the first season, and I think that is one reason why a lot of people who weren't necessarily Conrad fans to begin with really fell for him in the TV show, because I feel like they really pushed heavy on Conrad as opposed to really making you unsure of which way the love triangle was going to go. So I really did like what they did to him, and I liked Jeremiah. I think that he was portrayed really well too. That is exactly how I pictured him personality wise. The only thing I didn't really like about him was the way that he ended up undermining, I don't know what he he was very devious about the way that he was going about pulling Conrad and Belly apart every time they were about to get together, and I really didn't like that about him, and I don't feel like he was really that way in the books. So it kind of did bother me, but then I kind of thought at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to keep the storyline for how it was going in the books, and the whole mess up of what happened in book 3 with Jeremiah, I feel like they had to pull something like that, and that is kind of why they made him all devious in the first season. But that's kind of just something in my head of maybe that's why they did it, but I didn't really like that aspect of him, because in the books I feel like he wasn't like that way. I feel like he was just the really good friend sitting on the side waiting for Belly to notice him, and they changed that a little bit in the show. But besides for that little aspect of him, I feel like he was portrayed really well. He was kind of the goof, kind of always extra happy and everything like that, and I think that part was done well. And Belly specifically, I think, was done the best. That is exactly how I pictured her. I thought that she progressed prettily wise throughout the show very well. I saw her change in all of her clothing. They got nicer, and they started putting on better makeup for her throughout the episodes, and all of her jewelry, I noticed this change like slowed throughout the episode from going like childish to like a lot more like, adult and girly. And I really liked seeing her change in the show. So I'll give a thumbs up for that, but I will say that Jeremiah and Conrad, I did not picture them that way, and I was a little bit upset about it, even before I watched the show, because I saw like the casting way earlier, but I kind of like looked at them as like surfer Cali boys, like in the show, like the curly hair and the dark skin and everything like that, and I really did not picture them that way. I don't remember if they're from like Boston or something like that. I don't remember where, but they're definitely East Coasters, and I really always picture them with like straight black hair and like sharp jaw, very like Abercrombie and Fitch model type of boys. And we definitely didn't get that. And that was a little bit disappointing for me. But at the end of the day, like not everybody's going to get their perfect fan cast. So that was definitely something that disappointed me in the show. But I also thought that like the other characters were done really well. I thought that Belly's brother was so freaking adorable. I did picture him in my head to be a lot older than he was. But at the end of the day, I really liked him in the show. So like that was totally fine for me. And I also thought that Belly's mom was casted really well. I definitely pictured her exactly like that. And I think that Susanna wasn't exactly how I pictured her, but like she wasn't like she wasn't as bad as the two sons, but like in my head I did picture her a little bit differently. But either way, it was pretty solid in that aspect. Like I liked all of the ways that the characters were developed. I think that they were all overdeveloped, and obviously that's what like TV shows always do. They always like take all of the characters and like just further their storyline, but like I didn't really care for it, like especially Belly's mom's whole storyline and going way deeper into like, Belly's brother. Like I didn't really care for them, but like it wasn't bad. It's just like I didn't really care. And then I did like how they went deeper into, the cancer stuff. Like I think that it helped explain Conrad a lot better. Like in the books, he was very much a dick. He was not treating Belly right. And like we didn't like a lot of the moves that he did, or at least I didn't like a lot of the moves that he did throughout the whole series up until the end when he got his redemption of sorts. But in this series, like in the TV show specifically, I felt like they did him good, like especially showing that like he knew about his mom and like that's why he was acting that way. And then we got to see a lot more back and forth of like, well, he was really happy when he was around Belly, and then something would happen with his mom, and then he'd go backward, and then all of a sudden he'd feel bad about it, and then he would try getting her back. And I really liked seeing the quicker shift in him in the show versus in the books. So I will give a thumbs up to all of that. So I think that was all that I liked about the show. Like I think the characters were done well, and I also kind of liked the music. I think that the music and the playlist, the soundtrack, everything along those lines, I was kind of down for it. But everything else about the show, I really didn't like. First of all, the Deb ball. Oh my God, how many times could they say that word Deb? Debutante, Deb. Oh my God, I wanted to cringe every time. I did not really like the way that they made that the entire show. And I understand it because it was like the summer she turned pretty. So she was finding herself at becoming like, part of society sort of thing. And I got it, but I didn't really like it. And I think one of the big reasons why I didn't like it was because I'm not really a girly girl person, and I didn't really like all of the girls that were added into this show. Like, first of all, we got like so deep into like Belly's brother having a relationship, which I'm not gonna lie, I liked the girl that was the girlfriend. Like, I thought she was really cool, but like I also like didn't really care for it, And then I also didn't really like that Conrad had a girlfriend the whole time. Like in the books, I remember there being a girl on the side, but I don't remember it being like that prominent and like that they were that serious or anything like that. And it really it ruined it a little bit for me. Like I'm just not a girly girl person, and I didn't like all the girls added into the show, and that obviously came with like the debutante ball, like everything along those lines I really wasn't here for. And then on top of that, a lot of my favorite scenes ended up getting like messed up a little bit. Like my two favorite scenes, I think, from the first book, like there were a lot of good scenes, but like two that I always remember when I think of book one was the bonfire scene and then the house party scene. And I didn't really like how they changed up the bonfire scene. Like, first of all, one of the biggest things that I remember from the books was how Conrad all night was like looking at Belly, even though he was like chatting up a bunch of people or whatever. And I didn't really get to see that in the show. Like she kept looking at him while he was with his girlfriend of sorts, and I really didn't like seeing the change in that. And it just was like super underwhelming for me, that entire scene. Like that was my favorite scene from the book, and I feel like they totally botched it up a little bit. So I really didn't like that. And then the other scene, the other house party scene, Belly wasn't even at the house at the end. Like, I really liked how, it went down back then, how like Conrad, he was really drunk, and like, she was there with Cam, and like how all of that happened in the books. I liked it. But happens to be in the show, she wasn't even there, and we still got that whole like jealousy moment, because that's when he ended up finding out that like her and Jeremiah were really hooking up, and we got to see it, and I liked it, but I definitely didn't like it as much. So I was very let down with that. And there were a couple of like other scenes that I remember from the book that were changed up a little bit, and I was like, okay, whatever, like the pool scenes, and like, I don't know, there were just a couple of stuff, and also how they like fast tracked Jeremiah. Like, Jeremiah's first kiss didn't happen until like, the middle of the second book, and here we got it in like the middle of the first season, and like we kind of like forgot about Cameron, which I didn't really mind, because like, 3 guys over the span of 3 books, and here we kind of had like 3 guys very quickly in one season, and it was like, Cameron, like how much could they have like, brought him in if they also wanted to get Jeremiah in there and then jump to Conrad by the end of season 1. But basically, I saw all the changes, and I didn't necessarily love it. But to be honest with you, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to hate it. Like, the Deb thing really got to me, but like the rest of it, like changing up the scenes a little bit here and there, like it wasn't as bad as I've seen in some other adaptations. So kind of feel 50-50 about that. And then I will say that I actually thought that it was filmed really nicely. I didn't necessarily picture the house to be that way. Like, for some reason, I didn't picture it that nice, but like I wasn't really complaining. Like, I thought it was cool, but I just like didn't see it that way. Like, in my head, I thought of it more about like a little bit more coastal beachy. That was like a little fancy Hamptons vibes, but like it's fine. And I do think that like it was made well. Like, I happens to be like, my husband's very into like production, so I always like look at the production, the way that like it was filmed, and the edits and the cuts and the way that everything flows. I gotta say, I think that aspect was done well, but I just didn't like how they changed everything up. But that's kind of what you get with TV adaptation. So that is why I already knew I was going to be disappointed going into it. Like, I just don't like when they change anything. Like, I want you to take the book and freaking make it like a full on, like exactly how it was. And they're never going to do that, because obviously books and TV, like it has to be done in different ways. So yeah, it is what it is. So that is kind of, I feel like, the gist of how I felt about it. I didn't really plan on what to tell you guys before I, started filming. So that was just a very random jumble of everything that I was able to think of off the top of my head. But I'm curious to know if I'm not the only one who kind of felt this way, because I literally have not seen a single bad review online. And I always hate being the first person to be like, oh yeah, this thing kind of sucked. Like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And I'm not saying like, oh, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, I see why you guys are liking it, but like, I am just not a TV adaptation person. And therefore I was obviously disappointed in some aspects of it. But like, if you enjoyed it, good for you. I'm happy you found a new best TV show of all time. That's why I keep seeing people saying like, oh my God, it's my new favorite TV show. And I'm just like, okay, whatever you say. But either way, I'm not making fun of anybody who liked it. Good for you. I'm happy you enjoyed it. I'm very happy that they did a pretty solid job on the adaptation. It wasn't for me, but I do think that they did a good job for what it was. So let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. Hopefully I'm not the only one who didn't absolutely love it. But either way, yeah, that's that. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed my little rant on this TV adaptation. Also subscribe if you're not subscribed. And either way, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, enjoy reading.